Hey guys, I've been getting quite a few questions about food selection and how I go about selecting foods for different situations, determining what foods work for what people, etc. Had a quick break in the action today, so I wanted to whip up a quick video for you guys and answer some questions. Um, there's a few main things that I look at when talking about food selection. First and foremost would probably be digestion, and context could be like a subtopic of this and as how it ties into the situation. But first and foremost, digestion. If a food's not digesting well with you, then there's really no point in having it. It's kind of like when I look at training. There's definitely not any particular exercise that you have to do. Um, you know, it's the same with food. There's no food that you have to eat. Um, you don't have to eat brown rice. You don't have to eat sweet potatoes. You don't have to eat chicken for that matter. Um, it's totally going to depend on the situation. Um, but for the most part, one of the first things I'm going to look at is digestion. If the food's not digesting well, then there's really no point in eating it. I see this a lot with people that stick to quote unquote clean foods, and this is no knock on clean foods because if you ever see the way that I eat tons of really micronutrient dense organic foods all the time. That's mainly what my diet's made up of. So that's no knock on clean foods whatsoever. But my point is that um, you need to look at how the food's digesting. Is it moving through you efficiently? Are you absorbing it? Is it causing any kind of GI issues? I see a lot of GI issues with overconsumption of extremely complex foods, like over consuming vegetables, especially high food map vegetables like uh, broccoli, for example. That's a big one. If you're eating lots of broccoli, sure it's nutritious, but if you're getting gassy and bloated and constipated, holding water and air in your abdomen, then there's really no point eating it. So get rid of it. Um, and this is going to change from person to person just because macronutrient intake from person to person is going to be so much different. Someone that's eating a really high carbohydrate diet, they might need to be a little more selective with their foods in terms of, keeping things moving. They might need to throw in some more processed foods here and there just to make sure that digestion's moving along optimally. That's eating uh, more moderate to lower carb diet might not be an issue. They might want the more complex foods just to keep them fuller a bit longer. Um, in general, there's going to be a big variance between really high calorie diet and a really low calorie diet in terms of just trying to keep yourself full, or on the flip side, trying not to be stuffed all the time. So that's a big one. Um, that's mainly just touching on carbs, but the same thing goes with protein. Same thing goes with fats. If you're again really high calorie diet, you need to make sure that your protein sources are moving through. That might be a time when you're including more whey isolate shakes, liquid calories. Not that I would suggest anyone get, you know, too many liquid calories just because they're really void of any kind of micronutrition. But at the same time, it's an absorption issue. So the same thing goes for fats. I am someone that usually consumes higher fats, so I need to make sure that my sources work for me in a way that I'm not going to have stuff sitting in my stomach because fats inherently digest a lot slower. So, I'm going to make sure that I'm including things that have MCTs in them, using oils, things like that, besides just fatty meat or really dense fat sources that don't really move through me very well. And it's going to be a lot of trial and error. If you're working with a coach, then that's somebody that you probably ought to talk to about it, or you make lists, a diary, things on your own. But again, there's no list of clean foods or perfect foods that work for anybody. I have plenty of people that can't eat all kinds of different vegetables or all kinds of different carb sources, or they eat different carbs for different situations, different proteins, and it varies so much from person to person. Usually, with a client, I'll be able to kind of nail down a list as we go, and they stick to a lot of this similar things. They have some main foods they rotate through, but a lot of similar things just because they're mass food prep and things like that. They're not changing their food every day necessarily. But yeah, I mean that's the main things when it comes to digestion. Um, Next is going to be micronutrition, and this is kind of a balance. It's something that you have to balance with digestion. I feel like you can still, if you're someone that needs easily digestible foods just to keep things moving, you can still focus on micronutrition fairly well. Um, if you're someone that needs, a higher carb diet and you're just getting bloated from super dense carb sources, you might need to switch from brown rice to white rice or to white potato, or things like that, or a mixture of the more micronutrient dense sources and the more processed sources. If you're having half yams and half Rice Krispie treats or dry cereal, it's not really a big deal. I mean, your calories are high enough. You're getting plenty of micronutrients. Your digestion's moving. You're not really going to get any additional benefit from, taking that other third of your calories or half of your, carbs and moving it over to, um, a more micronutrient dense source. It's not really going to give you any additional benefit. You're getting what you need at that point. If calories are lower, then you might not have much wiggle room there. You might really want to focus on making sure that you're getting in all the micronutrients, your vitamins and minerals, just because there's, not an abundance of food. So obviously there's not an abundance of nutrients. Um, I mean, that's the main thing. It's not really super complex. If I like to look at food selection of my clients here and there, the ones that follow macronutrient plans, just to make sure that things are going well. We'll talk about it from time to time. I definitely give food lists when we start, suggestions, kind of try to eliminate the main culprit foods, and going back to the digestion and providing a list of micronutrient dense foods. That's the gist of it when it comes to micronutrients. But really, like I said, people kind of split hairs between, hey, is this carb is not, doesn't have very many nutrients in it. But let's be real, how many nutrients does white rice really have in it? Not many. Um, I mean, heck, for that matter, a lot of the processed foods that, a lot of the processed, especially carb sources that someone might eat to enhance digestion are probably fortified with vitamins and minerals. So, for that matter, you're probably getting more out of those than you are out of the the whole unprocessed food. Not that I'm suggesting that you stick to one or the other, but that argument's kind of void usually. Um, the last one on my list is probably going to be, it's diet, nutrition. A lot of it's adherence. So, we want our food to taste good. Some people don't care. Some people just it's plain, it's fine. And for some people that's good. That keeps them on track. That doesn't give them they eat something that's extremely tastes extremely good. It might set off a cascade of wanting more of that, and that might not be good. So they want to keep things rather plain, or it's just a convenience issue, or they just suck at cooking. Whatever. Uh, like me, I don't really do anything that fancy. I've prepped so many meals. I mean, there's lots of people that have been doing this longer than me, but it's not a big deal to me. My calories are in a pretty decent place right now. I put some condiments on my food that I like. Sea salt, my oils and stuff from fats, stuff tastes good. I mean, it's not, it doesn't really bother me. I eat mostly the same things. A lot of people do the same stuff. Other people want to get more creative, and that helps them, and that's fine. Um, but as a whole, I don't see why you can't adjust, adjust food selection to um, suit taste as long as it's fitting in the other categories of digesting properly and and fitting the context of the situation. So if you don't have to, if you hate the way a certain vegetable tastes or hate the way a certain protein tastes, you don't need it. There's really no reason to eat it. um, like I said in the beginning, there's really no food that you have to have. um, so there it's really a balance between those three main points when it comes to food selection. And once you kind of dial in the foods that work for you, you can rotate through those. I do think it's a good idea to vary foods here and there, just because some people are a little more prone to developing sensitivities to just overeating certain foods over and over and over and over again. And I'm sure some of you have had that happen. Um, not common in everyone, but it does happen. So, kind of rotating here and there, and that does mix up the micronutrients and stuff that you're going to get, and it mixes up, the taste of things. As long as you're not changing food, every single food you eat every single day, it's fine. I mean, that would make it extremely hard to kind of see what you're reacting to and what your body's actually doing in terms of looking at photographs, looking at your weight, things like that. It's going to bounce around a lot, but here and there, I don't really see an issue with that. I mean, that's the main things. If you guys have any questions about food selection in particular, let me know. I've just been getting a lot of, hey, how can I balance all the things that you talk about into my own food choices and still make it work without being lopsided in one area or the other. And those are the main points. It's going to vary from person to person, but you can use those guidelines for the most part, no matter what level you're at. And hope this was helpful, guys.